In this video, we're going to go over how I publish my books and reports, as well as some of the backend related to those platforms. We're going to specifically do a review of the publishing platform LeanPub, which allows incremental publishing. And then I'll compare that with how I used to publish and with manuscripts. So I'm Justin Hitt. I own JWH Consolidated, which has a number of newsletters and publications. And we publish content for business owners and executives, specifically in the areas of environment, risk management, business development. And I also write commissioned research papers, reports. I actually got started out by writing dissertations and people's master's thesis, because sometimes busy executives, they're going through an MBA or something like that, and they really don't have time to put those materials together. But I was able to take a large volume of source material, build it into outlines, help them flesh out a report, and then they write the core materials, which I then would edit and then help them with the administrative part of peer reviewing it, so that they could have the document finished. I didn't actually write their dissertation. I basically was supported their subject matter expertise in getting a finished paper that passes a board. I've also done that for executives when it comes to executive communications. So there's a lot of content that I've created over time, especially working with teams doing documentation. Now, I mentioned LeanPub. I'm the publisher of Establish Instant Credibility on the LeanPub platform. And here's the book right here. And what I like about this platform is it allows me to basically set a minimum price, but clients can pay as much or as little as they want for the product itself. They can maximize my earnings, or they can be cheap bastards and see how little they can get out of paying. It doesn't matter to me. I've already made money on the materials, because what I do is I write newsletters and articles, and I do consulting assignments, and I take notes, and then I repurpose those notes into publications. Now, the real value of note-taking and such is the publication of the material, not the taking the notes. So over the last, 4 or 5, maybe 6 years, I've got 23 years of materials put together in Obsidian here, but I ended up with a large number of materials about positioning your expertise, becoming a recognized expert. And so I developed that into a map of content, and then a book proposal, and then finally a book outline, and then the book itself. So when you see somebody publishing a book, you have to understand it isn't just they sat down and wrote a book. When I help clients write books or positioning materials, it starts at $25,000, and it could be a full day of interviews, multiple weeks of editing. It can be outlines, articles that we test in the marketplace to build leads up so that we have someone to sell the book to. A lot of stuff goes on. So the last thing I want to do is spend a lot of time on the back end publishing. So as a publishing company, so we do have a vanity press, and then we do support the administrative side of preparing and organizing large reports and commissioned reports and writing books and writing speeches and stuff, the copywriting side. What I used to do was actually very time consuming and required a lot of effort. And what I used to do was basically to build everything in LaTeX, which is a text layout, or to build it in Word and then put the pieces together into some kind of publishing platform like FrameMaker, InDesign. We don't do any of that anymore. Okay, that required a lot of effort. That required a lot of specialized and expensive tools. It was difficult to share files back and forth with clients. And so once I started using the text-based markdown platforms, which basically means writing a bunch of text files and then compiling the text files into the formatted document, it saved a lot of time. So the evolution of that was creating the text files that were content that was put into InDesign, to going from creating text files to let's create LaTeX. And LaTeX is a text formatting language, and then apply a format or a template to it. And then we went from there to HTML. Of Scrivener. So what I've got open on the screen here is Scrivener with the manuscript for the book I just showed you, Establishing Instant Credibility. What I do now is way simpler and so much easier, and so I'll buzz through that to help you understand how you might approach this, or at least when we talk about how it is very complex, the nuances of preparing a book, yet simple if you have it an expertise or subject matter knowledge, because basically what we're doing here is we're using, this is VS Code, to capture all the text notes. Actually, it probably starts, as I mentioned earlier, inside of a note-taking platform. It could be Notion, Obsidian, whatever it is. As long as you can export those notes into a structured format, which is called Markdown, which allows us to have some formatting of text. See, there's the headline of the book. There's some metadata about the book, some details about the format and publishing. All that is captured somewhere in a note-taking application. I can export that into a format that can be imported into Scrivener. And then from Scrivener, I retain the same outline and I can start building out the manuscript. And so it's just like index cards on a board. We used to do storyboards up on the wall. Now I can do a storyboard in Scrivener and start organizing ideas and concepts, grouping topics together. And so when you're going to write your book, you can start out with a lot of notes, so with piles of information. I like to take binders, for example, and I'll just start putting my notes in a binder. I'll print out my first draft in a binder and just hand edit notes and outlines and questions I need to answer for the reader. Because again, it is about delivering maximum value in minimal time. And I think a book is an excellent way of doing that. Some potential client or executive can get the book, read the book, have some core ideas on whether or not it's going to be worth hiring you or not. So you can take scratch paper and write out your key ideas, organize them on a storyboard, put them in a binder, start typing them in somewhere. Even if you're just typing it in as text files, you're in a much better situation than somebody who's trying to do Word documents or trying to write the book from beginning to end. Because I could take those individual text files and I could put them into a product like Scrivener, or I can put them directly into the LeanPub platform. Now, LeanPub's not paying me anything to promote them, but the platform itself has been a real time saver for me. Now, I can still take an InDesign manuscript. I can still take Word documents or other types of documents. I can even take a website. So let's say I've been blogging about each article. I can take each article and then suck it into the platform. But the key to the platform that I like the most, being kind of a nerdy guy, is that the back end can be GitHub. And so the GitHub back end gives me maximum flexibility because it's now the same as developing code. Okay, so we can have the methodologies of code development and collaborative editing, and to get multiple people in on a project to contribute, to edit, to review, and then finally we just push it out to the LeanPub platform. And as long as we've used their basic markup, which is a markdown based markup, then the book comes out beautiful. All I got to do is throw a title on it, put my pretty little face there, write some sales copy about it, and then start marketing. I will tell you that the writing of the book is only 20% of the success of your book. Now, you might say, well, I've got all this knowledge. I got to capture the knowledge. I've got to put it in a format people can use it. It's going to transform people's lives. But if nobody ever gets a copy of your book, then they will never be able to benefit from your book. And in fact, they may benefit from someone else's book or not benefit at all. The key is the book has to be there. So if you're establishing credibility in a marketplace, if you're trying to be an authority and you want to demonstrate your authority, whether it's a book, a report, or a course, you have to get it in their hands. So in the past, what I would end up doing is I get everything in Scrivener and I do all my editing. And so I can edit individual documents, and you can see all my track changes that are going on in here. I can run it through a grammar tool. I can run it through different kinds of editing tools. And then I would come over here and I would say, let's compile this report. And then I would compile it into a manuscript. Now that PDF manuscript is what I would deliver to my end user. So I would say I would do a consulting assignment, and they would buy they would buy an hour of my time, and then as a result of the hour of the time, I would give them a copy of the manuscript associated to the topic that we were working with, and it would have everything that my book or my report would have, and they could just start using it. And then I would take the lessons learned or the report of findings from the conversation, and I go back and edit the manuscript. And so that I ended up with hundreds of manuscripts that I could then again maintain in Scrivener, and then just pump out. But here's the problem. When it came to doing graphics and doing layouts and doing more complex images, and I'll show you some of those, for example, like building timelines. Building a timeline, for example. All right, let me just go here and find Reveal in Explorer. All right, so just to get ready for this video, I had to update Scrivener. I had to synchronize files. None of this is as easy as the business opportunity people make it sound like it is. So I write a lot of technical documents, and look now, see, it's got to do content preparation. And a lot of times executives and business owners and people who are doing the actual work. So maybe you've used a report to get a client and now you're actually doing the work of the client. You don't have time to deal with all this stuff. And that's why my team offers the back office services that build this out. But if you're doing a complex, this is a timeline, it's a little sideways here, but if you're doing a timeline and you're trying to do it in like a PowerPoint tool, or you're trying to do it in an editing tool, it doesn't give you the flexibility that you get when you use like a text language. So I'm able to code the exact parameters of the image that I want here, as well as to create an actual image that is properly, it's transparent in the background, it lays out correctly. As you can see, here's a Venn diagram. I'm able to do this in a vector scalable way, because when you throw it in InDesign, you got vectors. You can adjust the image and size. The source of that vector diagram is here in the text format. Now, you don't have to learn all this stuff. You could simply draw a diagram on a piece of paper like this, and somebody can turn that into this other thing, but it doesn't cost a lot of extra money to tune it or to resize it or to lay it out. I'm able to compile it into my transcript, which then goes into a manuscript. And so this is a folder for the manuscript, which I then feed to my publishing platform. That's why LeanPub has been so useful. So in the past, I would embed a bunch of images into my Scrivener document, and then I would create a manuscript that's a PDF file, and then the images would be all screwy and everything would be all out of alignment. It wasn't consistent because Scrivener is not a finishing tool. Scrivener does perfect for a text manuscript that you're going to send to your publisher, that you're going to send to somebody like me, and that's going to now build it out in order to feed it to a publishing system. But if you're doing a 6x9 book, it's not going to make sure you get the 6x9 perfect, or the 8.5 by 11 perfect, or one source for everything. So what I've developed is using software development methodology in order to get my Adobe Express cover image, to get my detailed internal images, to get my mermaid diagrams, all in one place. I run a script, which is a makefile, and this makefile builds everything all at once. Then I can then go over to my LeanPub, and we're not going to quite do this because I'm finishing off another revision. But I can come over here and say, give me a print ready PDF. Let's just pull over here. I'm just going to download the PDF. By the way, when you're publishing online, you need to have EPUB, PDF. You need the formatting to be correct. You need the attributions in the file to be correct. All of that is taken care of by the LeanPub platform. So whether you have my team put together something for you, or you have LeanPub put it together, or you have somebody else put it together, I want it one source manuscript. Okay? If there's a change to be made, I want to make the change in one place. I want code revision around that change, so I know who made the change, when it was made, why it was made. Then I want to be able to publish it in 2 or 3 clicks at the most. So when we're using FrameMaker or we're using InDesign, sometimes you got to get 3 or 4 people together in order to get the final manuscript ready for print. I don't want all that. I don't want all that overhead. So it comes out, it lays out everything because I use the markdown language that they have. It has links that are active. It has reasonable formatting for content. Okay, it builds out my table of contents. Now, it doesn't quite build out the index. A lot of my books or materials for clients have indexes in the back, but that is something I can do in my build, to build based on a keyword list, build based on certain phrases in order to build out my index. But look at that table of contents. That table of contents from a marketing perspective, because remember, writing the book is only 20%. When we go in and market a book or market a report or market an event for our clients, we need to make sure that their table of contents, for example, when it shows up on Amazon, telegraphs the value of their book or their report. That is something of a huge value. Okay, well, Amazon's not cooperating right now, but the point of it is, on Amazon previews, you might get to be able to show the table of contents, and you might not want people to go down. And I don't know if you noticed that, but I just clicked on the table of contents and went to my place in the document. Scrivener won't do that for me, but I can basically build my marketing into the book itself from the manuscript the client provided. Now, in this case, I wrote this book. I built the notes. I took the articles. I took the transcripts from my podcasts. I assembled the book. I designed the cover. I designed, all that stuff. I could have had 5 or 10 people support me on that, like we do when we work with clients. I'm not a professional cover designer. I'm very utilitarian based. But again, I get the utility value of being able to have one manuscript and then have it published wherever I need. So you can see the bullet points here. Now, it's not always going to lay out correctly. You see how this sincerely spreads the page? What I would do here in InDesign is I would actually probably put a graphic signature, and then I would work with the formatting of all this stuff so that it crosses the page the right way. But I've also learned that it's better to have the thing done than it is to have years of not getting it done. And so in building this book out, I'm able to focus on the most important part of the book, which is valuable content that helps the end user get some kind of tangible result, while also not taking away from the marketing of the book, from the research necessary to make sure the book fits the audience, from the feedback of the audience to do updates and revisions, the value of the context and interconnection of the book in a larger audience. I want to show you real quick some of the images. So if you've never written a book before, but maybe you've used Microsoft Word, you understand how difficult it can be to get an image to lay out on the page where it's supposed to be, at the size it's supposed to be. Now, I notice this one doesn't have any captions under it. I probably would like to have a caption under there. There's another Venn diagram, for example. Tables. So here's a table. These things are not as easy as they seem, but in the LeanPub platform, they're making it easier for me to the point where, again, I have one source of truth, which is my manuscript. I have a way of managing that manuscript that gives me redundancy. So my Scrivener file is saved so I can edit on my iPad or I can edit on my desktop. This is actually a remote desktop to a box that is just for editing. It has nothing else on it but editing. I can lock this on my screen and I can do bookkeeping and I can do editing. That's all I can do. There's no distractions on it. But I have redundancy of that the Scrivener file is saved somewhere, and that also I have track changes associated with all of the details in the Scrivener. So here is a Scrivener sync folder, and I want to give credit where credit is due. And this is what's so amazing about the platform itself, is that I used another publisher on LeanPub's materials to set up Scrivener on basically Scrivener as where I'm publishing my book. So let me just real quick, Scrivener, find those books. So there are 3 books out there, and I used Philip's book right here, Writing with Scrivener and LeanPub. It's almost its own proof that this is the best system for writing a lot of documents. Now, you don't need to build this system for yourself. You can have somebody like my organization. Of course, LeanPub has services there. You can write the materials over time. You don't have to write it all in one sitting. But being able to publish as I go allows me to get my first draft out, my pre-publication out. It allows me to get my ideas and concepts in front of an audience, to get feedback from the audience, and then to ultimately build out the elements that are necessary to get a final product. Now, I'm tracking revisions. I'm tracking revisions here. I'm tracking revisions in the VS Code or the GitHub platform. I'm able to see if I have, for example, an editor come in here and work on the manuscript. All this stuff syncs, by the way. I can then see what changes were made. So this is when I was building the makefile. Here's the stuff I had to change for the makefile to be clean. So I'm able to, in a couple minutes, run a build. And actually, this was interesting. There was some way the italics worked, had to change. But I can run a build. I can make my modifications in the one manuscript. I can flush that manuscript through my editing process just using the makefile. I can then commit it to the repository. Then I can go over to the LeanPub and pull the new information to build the report. Here's my sales side. Here's my revisions. And ultimately, I can work incrementally. I think the biggest value is the incremental approach. Now, can this be simplified? Oh, yes, it can definitely be simplified. It doesn't have to be this complex. But in my case, I've actually am publishing. So I don't have all my books on LeanPub right now, but I still use the print the manuscript way. So you can see I've got other books, reports, materials, and I just opened something. It's going to magically come open eventually. But I think I've got 100 publications. If Amazon came up, you can look up Justin Hitt on Amazon. I got a couple things there. I've written client materials that are 600-700 pages, even some that are only like 100 pages. And so I'm going to publish more on LeanPub. But again, the writing of the materials and the publishing part is only 20% of a successful book or report. The more important part is having the customers on the other end. So since that is not loading as magically fast as I'd like it to be, and by the way, everything that can go wrong will go wrong, I will real quick show you my plan on LeanPub because it allows me to actually integrate with my Google Analytics. So you can get started for free. And again, I don't get anything out of this. I'm not, I don't get a fee for this. And actually, I'm probably going to do lifetime here sooner than later. But I'm able to use their Markdown language, which is very close to regular Markdown. I'm able to get an 80% royalty. So back in the past, when I would write it in InDesign or FrameMaker or whatever the editing platform was, LaTeX, for example, I would have to go and lay out all this stuff and format it for pages and organize it for this and that, and then print an actual physical proof and then go through the proof and then take the change. None of that happens anymore. Plus, it is integrated with the Google Analytics, so I see the conversions. So that's the level, one of these levels up here. I can see the conversion in my Google Analytics. So every time I sell a book, I have the marketing information, which is 80% of your book success. I have that marketing information to work from. And then ultimately, I can just, as you just saw, I can just pop out a PDF. So in the past, I'd go do a consulting with a client. Let's say they pay me $1,200 and we're talking about their individual plan for building out credibility and building authority in their marketplace. And we've helped them identify the target customers for that and what trade groups they need to be speaking at and some ideas and speech topics. I can then just dump this PDF and hand them the PDF. And you see the PDF is book ready. Eventually, I'll have a physical book. And that physical book, I'm going to use their services to put it on Amazon because that is a whole nother headache. That is a whole nother frustration. But here you go. Here's another one of my books that are coming together. I'm moving my to-do notations out and using a different type of notation for that. But you can see this is actually a book. What's the title of this one? So this is Money-Sucking Marketing Mistakes. And this book is in draft. And so you can see I don't have chapter names, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. And then I'm just digesting the materials as I'm formatting them, for, you see this is a markdown format for a header. And then once this book is done, all I got to do is put it in a directory, copy and paste my make file, make a little change, start building out my images, feed it to this manuscript folder. This manuscript folder is what goes to the platform. See, here's all my images, for example, and there should be a build file. Here you go, my book text. Okay, so my build file then tells the LeanPub platform what magic they need to do to put these files in the right order, and then I'm done. I didn't have to do the layout and fight the size of the images. And then so after that book is done, I can go in and I can grab the next book, which is DD2. All my books are coded, by the way, so that I can track the marketing side, because again, the marketing is more important than the writing of the book. And while that is loading, I'll go ahead and wrap up. That is what makes it easy to get a book out. So this book is 119 pages. It has a bounce back offer in the back. It has practical examples. It has everything I need tied back to a website. So my catalog at jwhco.com is actually, I can sell the book directly from my catalog, which I don't tend to do because I get such a high commission at LeanPub. And because I get such a high commission, I basically say they can't purchase it here. There's a link here. They can buy it at LeanPub. But again, 99% of the work is done for me. Now, I can understand why a busy business owner or executive or a consultant who's actually doing work, or a financial planner who wants to build a report to do their credit, to increase credibility or write a book, would not go through the trouble of getting Scrivener and building out the book itself. It's a lot easier for me to interview you. I'm working on one right now where we've interviewed the person for 4 or 5 hours, which is daunting in of itself, but I can take the interviews and edit them down into transcripts, and then the transcripts into key ideas and concepts, and then key ideas and concepts into an outline. I can go do the keyword research, the contextual research, the audience research, all that stuff for them, and then basically hand them a book that they can then say yes or no. And by the way, they can, I just showed you, I can drop the PDF, and then they can ultimately be up and running in minutes. So this other book here, DD2, is Self-Esteem Building for Wealthy Entrepreneurs. So see, some of these books started, look at that. That is 2009. So I'm speaking from experience here when I'm talking about the value of this kind of thing. Let's look at statistics really quick. This is a 9,000. This is just one page. Let's see hard to believe that this whole book is only 1,500 words. Something is not right there. Let's close that and look at this next one. Okay, this was 12,000 words. So some of these books are a little bit further along than others. Again, it's not the writing of the book. I used to think if I just write the book, then the audience will come. Look at that beauty. This thing's backing up for me. And by the way, it's backing up to an external hard drive because I'm paranoid. Not only do I have my own computer, but that I do the editing on, but any of my other computers, I can open up the plain text and do editing so that I'm not going to lose my work. And I'll just show you the project name. See right here, I could pull this project, synchronize it, and be up and running on a different computer system. So in summary, if you want to write a book, you want to write a large report, you want to write a course, you want to do something that establishes yourself as an expert in a marketplace, don't do it the hard way. Now, there's still value in using InDesign or any of these publishing tools, but I'm in a position where most of my clients, if they have a successful book on a consumer market side, so for example, they publish their first edition on Amazon and a publisher contacts them and says, we want to give you an advance, rewrite your book for a general audience. We can still dump out a manuscript for them in the format they're looking for. We can dump it out in a PDF. We can dump it out in something that's easy to import into InDesign or some other tool. But as an individual publisher, which is primarily doing subject matter work, or you're a knowledge worker, or you're doing consulting, or you're running a business, you don't need to learn these other tools. Either services like myself can help you get a manuscript together that's extremely flexible, easy to publish, can be published in increments. It'll have a clean layout. It'll be easy to follow and diagrams that work. All the sausage making happens for you. Or you could just go get started at LeanPub, just like a lot of people have done. You don't have to write a lot of books and materials. You can actually start publishing the individual articles and then have, again, somebody compile and organize it for you. But please don't wait. Start now and at least get Obsidian or some note-taking platform to start capturing the materials about your particular topic. Because again, if you do this the right way, it's going to help you be more knowledgeable about the topic. If you do it even more the right way, you're going to have an artifact that demonstrates your expertise. If you go a little bit further in the right way, you'll have a book or report that you can test with a small audience. So after we sell a couple hundred copies on LeanPub, then I go promote it out to Barnes & Nobles, Amazon, and larger publishing environment. It is magical in what you can do today. It completely beats how I had to do this stuff in the past. And please don't write your book in Word. Don't write your book in WordPerfect. Don't write your book in some proprietary language, because these markdown languages are powerful. So that's about all I have to say there. If you have any questions about this particular episode of the podcast, or from my desk is probably the best place to publish this, just ask those questions in the comments below, or visit www.jwhco.com. Go to the contact page. You can ask your questions. You can see some of the topics that we publish on, but when we're publishing for clients, we tend to focus on an audience. So we help business owners and executives write for high affluent audiences, audiences that are technical in nature. And we've actually even written risk reports and audit findings and regulatory materials too. So our writing tends to be a little bit matter of fact, and really supports that scientific audience. So even if you're writing a book on LeanPub and you want help managing the back end, we have ways of doing that, as I've shown you here. So I hope this has been helpful. I'm Justin Hitt, and we are here to help you transform business relationships into profits. One of the best ways of doing that is to demonstrate your expertise in a tangible book, report, or course. And those materials like this aren't as effective and credible as what I can pop out of LeanPub while I'm talking to you on the phone. Anyway, I'm Justin Hitt. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to your questions.